The movie opens with Millie arriving at the lavish home of Andrew Winchester, where she is greeted by his wife, Nina. Nina welcomes her kindly and mentions that Millie's resume shows excellent university grades. She asks why someone so qualified would want to work as a house manager. Millie replies that she loves cooking and taking care of children, which is why the job appeals to her. Nina then shows her a photo of her daughter, Cease, and says that she is a very special child. She takes Millie on a tour of the house and explains that Andrew designed it himself, even though he is not a professional interior designer. Andrew runs a software company he inherited from his father, and Nina describes him as someone who is extremely focused on structure, order, and control. She shows Millie Cease's bedroom and the small room where Millie would stay if hired. Nina also reveals that she is in the early stages of pregnancy and needs help around the house. However, she admits that Andrew does not yet know about the baby. Nina adds that she is still interviewing other candidates and will contact Millie if she decides to hire her. Before Millie leaves, Nina hands her $20 as a thank you for coming all the way to the house. As Millie walks away, she quietly tells herself that Nina probably won't call her back, because she will soon realize that her resume is fake. The story then reveals that Millie has nowhere to live and is currently sleeping in her car. She is also serving a 5-year probation sentence, though the reason for her imprisonment will only be revealed later. The next morning, Millie wakes up in her car when a police officer knocks on the window and tells her she is not allowed to sleep there. Just then, her phone rings. It is Nina, calling to say she wants Millie to start work immediately. Millie heads back to Nina's house and is surprised to find the place in complete chaos. Nina takes Millie's bags and explains that she is busy writing a speech for her daughter's school parents' council, then leaves her alone and goes to her room. That evening, Andrew and Cease return home. Nina introduces Millie to her husband and tells him she has hired her to help around the house. Andrew looks slightly caught off guard, but he politely welcomes Millie. After finishing her chores, Millie goes to her room and quickly realizes something is wrong. The door has no key, and the only window is sealed shut and cannot be opened. When she asks Nina about it, Nina says she will have a specialist come to fix the window and that she will get a key made for her. Nina then gives Millie a phone and explains that it is connected to her bank card so Millie can buy whatever the house needs. Millie thanks her and mentions that her old phone barely worked anymore. The next morning, Millie is startled by loud crashing sounds. She finds Nina in the kitchen, angrily smashing objects and shouting about a missing piece of paper containing her speech. Millie says she has not seen it, which only makes Nina more furious. Nina accuses her of lying and threatens to fire her if she does not find it. Just then, Andrew walks in and calmly tells Nina that the speech is saved on the computer and can be printed again. Nina immediately settles down, thanks him, apologizes for losing her temper, and heads to the study. Andrew then apologizes to Millie for his wife's behavior and offers to help clean up the mess, but Millie insists she can take care of it. He thanks her and goes to join Nina. From that day on, Millie becomes convinced that Nina is unstable, and she starts feeling sorry for Andrew. In her eyes, he is rich, attractive, and far too good for a woman like Nina. One day, while taking out the trash, Millie meets Enzo, the gardener. He asks what she is doing there, and she tells him she works for the family. Enzo suddenly notices Nina watching them from inside the house. His tone changes as he quietly tells Millie, "You don't belong here," before walking away. That evening, Millie cooks dinner for Andrew and Cease. Andrew explains that Nina is tired and will not be joining them. He invites Millie to sit and eat with them, but she politely declines, saying she has already eaten. That night, Millie dreams about Andrew approaching her. She wakes up shaken, trying to push the thoughts out of her mind. The next morning, Nina hands her a key and says, "This is the key to your room." The following day is Saturday, Millie's day off. As she prepares to leave, Nina stops her and says she needs her to stay home. Millie explains that she has an important appointment, but Nina refuses to listen. Andrew steps in and allows Millie to go. Millie then visits her probation officer. When the officer hears that Millie now has a job and a place to stay, she is pleased and reminds her that stable work and housing are required under her probation. Millie must not lose this opportunity. The next day, Andrew's mother comes to visit. She is sharp-tongued and intimidating. She gives Nina a set of ceramic dishes and tells her to guard them carefully, explaining they are a family heirloom passed from mother to son's wife. When she notices Millie, she snaps at Nina, saying, "How can you let your daughter's nanny dress so provocatively?" Nina forces a smile and quickly changes the subject. That night, Millie cannot sleep and goes downstairs to watch TV. After a while, Andrew joins her. When she apologizes, he tells her it is fine and sits beside her. Nina walks in, sees them together, and immediately tells Andrew to go back to their bedroom. Once he leaves, Nina turns to Millie and coldly warns her not to get close to her husband. She demands Millie's phone and fires her on the spot. Millie breaks down, begging for another chance because she desperately needs the job. Nina finally agrees to give her one more week, but only if she dresses modestly and stays away from Andrew. Millie accepts. The next day, Nina hosts a gathering with her friends. While serving tea, Millie overhears them gossiping about Nina. One woman reveals that Nina once spent 9 months in a psychiatric hospital. They say Andrew is unlucky, because he is wealthy and attractive and could have anyone he wanted. If he left Nina, she would have nowhere to go. They also mention that Nina once told them she could not have children due to medical issues, yet Andrew still stays with her. Nina suddenly returns and catches Millie standing near the door. She sharply orders her not to listen to private conversations and tells her to serve the tea and go back to the kitchen. Millie obeys, shaken by what she just heard. The next day, while Nina and Andrew are out, Millie searches the bathroom cabinet and finds bottles of antipsychotic medication. Alarmed, she calls a friend and asks her to help find another job because she now wants to leave this one. That night, Millie hears raised voices and the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. She follows the noise to Andrew and Nina's bedroom and knocks. Nina opens the door holding a broken piece of glass smeared with blood. Terrified for Andrew, Millie calls out to him until Andrew appears and firmly shuts the door in her face. The following morning, Nina gives Millie one of her dresses as a gift. She asks Millie to book 2 theater tickets for the weekend and reserve a hotel room, explaining she plans to spend a romantic night away with Andrew. She also tells Millie to skip her day off, stay home with Cease, and pick her up from ballet class. Millie agrees. While waiting at ballet practice, another nanny tells Millie that Cease's mother is unstable and once tried to drown her own daughter in the bathtub. Andrew was away on business and kept calling. When Nina did not answer, he alerted the police. They arrived just in time to save Cease, and Nina was placed in a psychiatric facility for 9 months. The next day, Millie is shocked when Nina asks about the theater tickets. Millie reminds her that she was the one who requested them, but Nina denies it, saying she and Cease are going to a camp that weekend and would never plan a theater outing. She adds that the cost of the tickets will be taken out of Millie's pay. Millie breaks down and pleads with Nina not to charge her, explaining that the ticket cost equals her entire paycheck. Nina refuses to budge and threatens to fire her if she does not repay the money. When Andrew arrives and hears what happened, he asks Nina to calm down. That weekend, Nina leaves for camp with Cease, leaving Millie alone in the house with Andrew. Andrew suggests they go to the theater together, and Millie agrees. That evening, she wears the dress Nina gave her, and the two of them attend the show, have dinner, and later go to a hotel. They end up spending the night together, and a secret relationship begins. The next morning, Andrew wakes Millie and tells her that Nina and Cease are coming home that day and that they must return before them. They get back in time and try to act as if nothing happened. Later, as Millie serves lunch, Nina suddenly asks, "You were in prison, weren't you?" Millie freezes. Nina then turns to Andrew and says, "You do know she spent 10 years in prison before working for us, right?" Andrew looks shocked and says nothing. Nina then tells Millie to take her car and go buy groceries. Millie obeys. At the store, she runs into one of Nina's friends, who notices the phone Millie is using and explains that it belongs to Nina and can track her location. Millie realizes Nina now knows everything about where she has been and what she has done. As Millie leaves the store, a police officer suddenly approaches, handcuffs her, and asks, "Is this your car?" Millie tells the officer the car is not hers, but he replies that Nina Winchester, the registered owner, has reported it stolen. Millie tries to explain, but he refuses to listen. Just then, Andrew arrives, clears up the situation, and drives Millie away. On the way back, Andrew tells her that her past does not change how he sees her. He says her time in prison does not matter to him. Millie quietly answers that his wife already knows about what happened between them. Andrew admits that she does. The moment they enter the house, Nina confronts them. She orders Millie to pack her things and leave, accusing her of stealing her dress and threatening to have her sent back to prison. Millie insists Nina gave her the dress. Andrew snaps, shouting at Nina to leave the house and never come back. Feeling victorious, Millie coldly tells Nina she will pack her bags for her. Furious, Nina storms out, jumps into her car, and drives off through the gate. Millie then tells Andrew she will start looking for another job, but he stops her and says he wants to be with her. He tells her she now belongs in the house. Millie is overwhelmed with happiness. From then on, they spend their days together, and Andrew showers her with affection. One morning, Millie wakes early and goes downstairs to make breakfast. She takes out the family's ceramic dishes and begins setting the table. Suddenly, she sees Enzo standing outside the glass door. Startled, she drops the tray, and the dishes shatter on the floor. Andrew rushes down after hearing her scream. When he sees the broken heirlooms, he stays calm and asks what happened, then goes outside to chase Enzo away. When Millie apologizes, Andrew reassures her, telling her to put the pieces in a bag because he knows someone who can repair them. Millie gathers the shattered pieces, slips them into a bag, and hands it to Andrew. As he looks inside, he asks why she didn't wash them first. She explains she was scared of cutting her hands. That night, they drink together in the bedroom that Nina once occupied. The next morning, Millie wakes up alone. When she tries to open the door, she realizes it's locked from the outside. Thinking Andrew is playing a joke, she calls out for him to let her out. His voice answers from the other side of the door, cold and steady. She made a mistake, he says, and now she has to be punished. The story then jumps back to the moment Nina reached the gate, laughing uncontrollably. It rewinds even further, revealing Nina's past. She was once a struggling single mother, abandoned by her husband shortly after their daughter was born. Desperate and broke, she was forced to leave her child with a nanny while she worked long hours to survive. One day, during a company board meeting, Nina was publicly humiliated by the chairman for her appearance. When the meeting ended, she found Andrew waiting outside. He invited her to dinner. Wealthy, charming, and single, Andrew swept her off her feet, and within a month, they were married. During their courtship, he asked her to dye her hair blonde. Andrew later confessed that he had once been engaged to a woman named Kathy, but she had walked away after just 2 weeks, a rejection that had left deep scars on him. As time passed, Nina's dark roots began to show beneath her dyed hair. Andrew told her to color them again. She agreed, but with everything going on, she kept postponing it. That delay triggered something in him. One day, he locked her inside the same room where Millie would later be trapped. The room had no food, only 3 bottles of water. When Nina begged him to let her out, Andrew coldly replied that she would earn her freedom only after doing what he demanded. He slid an envelope under the door and gave her a horrifying task. She had to pull out 100 strands of hair from her own scalp and place them inside. If even a single hair wasn't pulled out from the root, she would have to start all over again. Nina was horrified and refused, but Andrew never answered. He simply walked away. As the days dragged on, hunger and dehydration weakened her. Eventually, she had no choice. With shaking hands and burning pain, she plucked out 100 hairs and slipped the envelope under the door. That evening, Andrew returned and cruelly told her that one strand wasn't pulled properly. He ordered her to repeat the process. Weak and desperate, she did it again. An hour later, Andrew opened the door and found Nina unconscious. He woke her and handed her a bottle of water, which she drank greedily. The moment she could stand, Nina rushed to check on her daughter and found her safe and sleeping. Relief washed over her, but it didn't last. Suddenly, she felt dizzy. Andrew had drugged the water. Within seconds, her vision blurred and she collapsed. When she came to, panic took over. She ran to find her child and discovered her lying in the bathtub, barely alive. Nina tried desperately to save her, but at that exact moment, the police arrived. They misunderstood everything and believed Nina was trying to drown her own child. They dragged her away while she screamed in terror. As she was being taken from the house, Andrew pretended to sob over their daughter, but behind his fake grief was a chilling smirk. He had won. Nina was committed to a psychiatric hospital for 9 months. No one believed her story. Every doctor labeled her as delusional. Realizing the only way out was to survive, she pretended to accept their diagnosis. Once they believed she was cured, she was finally released. After her release, Nina was forced to continue living with Andrew as his wife. He kept her trapped through fear, knowing he could have her institutionalized again at any time and take away her daughter. Andrew's abuse never stopped. The only person who believed Nina was Enzo, whose own sister had died at the hands of a man just like Andrew. Over and over, Enzo urged her to escape with her daughter, but Nina refused, knowing Andrew would hunt her down. The only way she could truly be free was if Andrew himself chose to discard her. That was when she came up with her plan. She deliberately hired a housekeeper, selecting a young woman with no money, no family, and nowhere else to go. Just as she had hoped, he took the bait. Back in the present, Andrew stands outside the locked door, coldly telling Millie that she has committed a terrible mistake. He says she didn't just break his mother's dishes into 21 pieces, she didn't even wash them. For that carelessness, he says, she must be punished. His demand is horrifying. Millie must cut her stomach 21 times, deep enough to bleed. Only then, he says, will they discuss her freedom. Millie explodes in anger, calling him insane and refusing to obey. Andrew leaves her locked inside. 2 days pass. Weak and desperate, Millie remembers the truth of why she went to prison years earlier. A flashback reveals her in a boarding school dorm, discovering a wealthy student violently attacking her friend. Millie struck him to stop it, killing him in the process. Even though she was protecting someone, his powerful family ensured she was sentenced to 10 years behind bars. Back in the room, Millie searches every corner until she finds a sharp tool and hides it beneath her clothes. Using a shard of broken ceramic, she cuts herself just enough to make it believable. Then she calls Andrew and tells him she has done what he demanded. When he unlocks the door and steps inside, Millie strikes. She drives the hidden blade into his neck, grabs his phone, and runs out, locking him inside the room instead. Andrew slams against the door in fury, screaming for her to let him out. Calmly, Millie repeats his own words back to him. When you complete your punishment, she says, then we'll talk about your freedom. Using his phone, she watches him through the hidden camera inside the room. While Andrew rages and bleeds behind the locked door, Millie walks downstairs a message that reads, "Have you prepared the divorce papers yet, my handsome son?" Millie reads it and gives a quiet, satisfied smile. She heads to the kitchen, rummages through a drawer, and finds a pair of pliers. Taking them, along with the remaining ceramic dishes and a can of gasoline, she goes back upstairs to Andrew's door. She throws the pliers inside and coldly tells him to pull out his front tooth so he can never charm another woman again. Andrew refuses. In response, Millie begins smashing the rest of the ceramic dishes outside the door, then pours gasoline underneath it. As the fuel seeps into the room and Andrew hears a match strike, panic takes over. He finally agrees. Andrew pulls out his own tooth while Millie watches through the camera on his phone. When he begs her to unlock the door, she ignores him and walks away. Elsewhere, Nina tells her daughter everything and says they must escape together. Cease refuses, insisting they cannot abandon Millie, who has done nothing wrong. Touched by her daughter's compassion, Nina changes her mind. That night, Nina returns to the house, believing Millie is the one trapped in the room. She opens the door, only for Andrew to burst out and attack them. In the struggle, Millie manages to shove him over the railing. He crashes down to the lobby floor and dies. Afterward, Nina tells Millie to run. She promises to tell the police that Andrew fell while changing a light bulb. Millie does exactly that. Soon after, the police arrive at the house. Nina's explanation sounds doubtful, but fate intervenes. The officer assigned to the case turns out to be the sister of Catherine, the woman who had once been engaged to Andrew. She quietly says, "My sister came to me shattered after what Andrew did to her." After a pause, she adds, "I believe you. Anyone really could fall while changing a light bulb." At Andrew's funeral, Millie watches from a distance. Cease runs over to her, and Nina follows, thanking Millie and handing her a check for $100,000. A month later, Millie is seen at another job interview, this time with one of Nina's friends. The woman tells her, "Nina recommended you. I really need help." During the interview, Millie notices bruises on the woman's hands and understands what is happening in that home. She gently smiles and replies, "Of course. I can help you. I'll start today."